When it comes to human reproduction, the male and female bodies take two completely opposite approaches. The male system operates like a 24/7 automated factory, constantly churning out inventory. Meanwhile, the female system runs more like a highly exclusive art studio, focusing all its energy on a single masterpiece. The biological term for creating these reproductive cells is gametogenesis. In males, we call it spermatogenesis, literally the birth of sperm. Starting at puberty, the male reproductive organs, the testes, go to work. Through a continuous cycle of cell division known as meiosis, they take raw cellular material and process it into millions of functional sperm cells every single day. Each individual sperm is built for one specific task: delivery. It has a head holding the genetic payload, a midpiece packed with biological batteries called mitochondria to provide swimming energy, and a long tail to propel it toward its target. The entire male reproductive strategy relies on numbers. By mass-producing millions of these cells at once, the body statistically guarantees that at least one messenger might survive the journey to its destination. The female system, or oogenesis, plays by entirely different rules. Surprisingly, a female actually begins producing all her reproductive cells before she is even born. But during fetal development, the body hits a biological pause button, halting the process completely. Once a young woman reaches puberty, that paused system wakes up. But instead of returning to mass production, the ovaries carefully select and mature just one functional egg, or oocyte, each month. The rest of the developing cells are simply discarded. This diagram illustrates a cross-section of an ovary. Over the course of a single month, we can see how an individual oocyte matures inside a protective, fluid-filled casing called a follicle, growing from a tiny structure into a large, fully mature Graafian follicle. Rather than making millions of tiny delivery vehicles, the female body dedicates intense effort and resources into making one perfectly prepared, highly capable cell. To get that single egg ready, the body hosts an elaborate monthly event known as the menstrual cycle. This entire process is coordinated by 4 chemical event planners, hormones that travel through the blood to prepare the egg and the uterus at the exact same time. The first planner is follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH. The brain's pituitary gland sends FSH down to the ovary to wake it up and stimulate the growth of a brand new follicle. As that follicle starts to expand, it releases the second planner, estrogen. Estrogen's job is to start preparing the VIP room for our newly maturing egg. That VIP room is the endometrium, the inner lining of the uterus. Under the influence of estrogen, this thin lining begins to thicken, filling with a rich network of blood vessels to become a soft, welcoming environment. The first half of the menstrual cycle is entirely about parallel preparation. The body is simultaneously growing the guest of honor in the ovary while decorating the room in the uterus. This chart tracks the rising and falling levels of our hormones over a 28-day cycle. Right in the middle, around day 14, estrogen levels hit their peak. This acts as a signal for the pituitary gland to release a massive spike of our third planner, luteinizing hormone, or LH. That sudden surge of LH triggers the main event, ovulation. The mature Graafian follicle bursts open, releasing the fully grown egg out of the ovary so it can begin its journey down the fallopian tube. Back in the ovary, the empty, broken follicle doesn't just disappear. It heals over and transforms into a temporary new structure called the corpus luteum. Returning to our hormone chart, we can see the newly formed corpus luteum start pumping out our fourth and final planner, progesterone. Progesterone takes over the job of maintaining that thick, rich uterine lining, while strictly blocking the ovary from developing any new eggs. At this point, the second half of the cycle becomes a biological waiting game. Progesterone keeps the internal environment perfectly stable and quiet, just in case the guest of honor arrives. Now the stage is set. The egg is traveling down the fallopian tube, and the plush uterine wall is waiting. From here, the body faces one of 2 possible outcomes. The first outcome is fertilization. If a single sperm from our mass production factory manages to reach and penetrate the egg, their genetic material fuses together to create a new cell, called a zygote, a single cell that now contains a full double set of genetic instructions from both parents. This diagram shows the next step of a successful fertilization. the zygote divides into an embryo and securely implants itself right into the thick cellular wall of the endometrium. To keep the pregnancy safe, the corpus luteum will continue producing progesterone to maintain the environment. But what happens if no sperm arrives? Without fertilization, the egg simply dies. And without a fertilized egg sending signals back to the ovary, the temporary corpus luteum slowly breaks down and degenerates. Looking at the end of our hormone chart, we can see the direct result. Without the corpus luteum, the levels of progesterone and estrogen crash. Stripped of its hormonal support, the thick uterine lining breaks apart and sheds from the body, a process we recognize as menstruation. These complex textbook charts capture the visual timeline of a biological factory, an exclusive boutique, and a dedicated team of chemical planners, all working in a constant cycle to prepare for the creation of human life.